Welcome back. In this section of videos, what we're going to do is continue our discussion on the C# language with Language Fundamentals 2. Now, let's all think back to Volume 1. With Language Fundamentals 1, what did we cover? Well, one of the main things was variables. We talked about how you could go about setting aside a little bit of memory to store some information. And we talked about that information had to be of a particular data type. Now, we talked about how you can declare variables, how you can initialize variables, how you can use the contents of a variable. Talked about all the simple stuff. We even introduced you to a few predefined data types, such as integers, floats, strings, bool, right? We got in there, we had a little bit of fun with those. We used them all throughout the Canon games. But now we need to take a closer look because variables play such a key role in creating applications. So there's a lot that you need to know, and we're going to cover a good bit of that in Language Fundamentals 2. So we're going to start out with predefined data types. Yeah, I know, you've seen some of them. Once again, int, float, etc. This time around, we're going to talk about a lot of the predefined data types that are at your disposal, and we're also going to cover how much information each of these data types hold. Think about it, an integer. How big of a number will an integer hold before that number ends up wrapping around? Or let's just say causing a problem with your application. And we'll talk about that when we get into predefined data types. From there, once we've covered a bunch of them, we're going to move over to value and reference types. Now, I've kind of snuck those words in here and there throughout these two volumes. If you think back to the Canon projects, I really brought the word reference in quite a few times. Every time Logan was creating a new object, he was storing a reference to that object in that object variable. I threw that out there a couple of times. I did that for a reason. Now, this time around, we're going to take a look at the difference between value and reference types, and we're going to see exactly what's happening in memory. Once we get a clear understanding of that, we're going to move on to variable scope. This is very important. Where can variables be seen and accessed? Basically, if I create a variable in this method, can I see it in this method over here? Or what if I declare a variable within an if statement? Can I see it right outside the if statement? Or what if I create it inside the class, but not in any of its methods? Where can it be seen from? So we're going to talk about variable scope. From there, we're going to move over to type conversion. Again, you've seen Logan get involved with type conversion several times as he worked his way through the various Canon games. Basically, if I need to convert from one data type to another data type, how can I do it? Well, there's an implicit way in some cases, and there's explicit ways in other cases, and we're going to be talking about that. From there, we're going to move on to enumerations, a new data type that offers a lot of power when you need to predefine specific data. We'll talk about that more when we get into enumerations, but we need to go ahead and show you this data type because we're going to be using it in the precision game in Volume 2 of the XNA Xtreme class. And of course, we're going to wrap all of this up with a knowledge review. We need to test you, make sure you pick something up from all of these videos. Basically just make sure you're kind of in tune with what we had to say. And that would pretty much wrap it up at that point for Language Fundamentals 2. So now that we know what we're going to do, let's go ahead and get started.